Let's begin module 2 now. I recommend you take that code you wrote for module 1 and save it as module 1. And now you can just go back into your workspace. You can open up a new project. Let's call that module 2. And now we can begin writing code. So now let's look at the module 2 notes and code. In module 2, I just want to start off by saying that we are going to be focusing on downloading data, and there's 4 common ways to import/download data in R. There's the reading files from your computer, which we did last week, in module 1 we did, and that was kind of a bit of a messy process with downloading and getting the files into your computer with upload. So a lot of times there's better ways to do it, and that is these 3 methods. So you can read files using an R library. So for example, the World Bank has a nice one where you can access WDI data. This is actually really good for researchers. You can read files directly from websites, zip data, XLS data, and data from GitHub. You don't have to download the GitHub data. You can actually just read it directly, which I'll show you today. And you can also scrape data. Scraping is extremely helpful when the data isn't structured. A lot of times there's HTML tables on websites that you might want to grab, and I will show you how to do that. So let's just quickly review. I'm not going to actually show you how to do this. You can review this vote.csv and arrests from your own module 1 code. I don't have the files uploaded here, so I'm going to skip this review. But I encourage you to actually try it in module 1 again, just to make sure you understand what's happening. So the first thing I'm going to show you is downloading data using libraries. This is an extremely important point. What we're doing here is using an external library, and you generally speaking have to download that library. So step 1 of installing a library is install.packages function. You want to put in quotes the name of that library, and then it will give you a bunch of, this shows that R is thinking, so just be careful, just wait, be patient, and you can see that something kind of process is happening down here, and you'll see some red code. Don't be scared. It's just probably a warning message. And once it is done downloading, then you can do step 2 of using an external library, and that is reading or importing the functions. So step 1 is install.packages, the name of that library. Step 2 is the library function with the name of that library inside, no quotes. It looks like it was successful. It says downloaded packages are in. We can check whether it downloaded successfully very easily. Run the code. If nothing happens, if it's just blue, then you know it worked. Okay, so it seems to have worked. If it didn't work, there would probably be a red error message, and it will say like error. Let's, for example, try to read a library that we haven't installed yet. Actually, just as an example, let's do ggplot2. Error. There is no package called ggplot. That's because we haven't installed it. So install packages ggplot2. Install that, and as you did in your first session, just maybe take notes. You can use comment, and let's go back to that ggplot example I just showed you. So now that it's been installed, you can run ggplot, and it should work well. And that's a lot of not error messages, there's a lot of messages. Try to ignore it as best as you can because it's not really important. What you really want to focus on is whether that ggplot library ran successfully, and now it did. Right? Before we had an error message, now we don't. So now that that library is imported, this is actually not the right thing, but that library will allow you to use, the WDI library will allow you to use this WDI search function. You can search any type of string that you want. So if you're interested in gender issues, you can do this, and it should show you a number of World Bank indicators. If you know the exact indicator, so for example, this is gender parity index. So let's just actually save this as an object just to make it a little bit easier to understand. Let's clear that out. So now we have that saved. If you want to see it, you can look at it here. The indicators are on the left side, the names are on the right side. So this is all of the indicators with gender in the name. That's what we search for. And so that's actually the search function. If we were to download that data, we would use the WDI function instead of the WDI search function. And then we would have hopefully successfully downloaded this gender parity index. And we can actually even also add the country we want to see it for. So this is Afghanistan. We could do it for the US. We could start from 1990, 2008, whenever you wanted to, you could change that. And I'm going to be saving it as the WDI indicator. And actually, let's do it for Afghanistan because I think that will work. The US actually didn't, so we were able to download it for Afghanistan. You can also, grab GDP. You can grab a variety of other indicators. I just wanted to show you this because I think some students use that WDI. Now moving forward, I think actually this is a little bit more straightforward than what I just showed you. The second thing you can do is download data from websites. I'm going to show you how to download some zip data first. You're going to have to install all of these packages. So as you can see, it's common to use a lot of packages when you're using R. And what I want to download is this kind of famous data set that a lot of researchers use to study kind of poverty alleviation. And so it's from this website. There's actually this file here that's a zip file. And so what my code allows you to do is to just grab that zip file and download it directly to your RStudio. So what I'm going to do is first save two string objects. I told you that we would be using the strings, and I introduced it in module 1. So after these packages have been finished installing, then we can finally make these strings. So just bear with me for 1 second. Once the strings have been saved, then we can use the download.file function. And the download.file function is taking in that URL that we're saving there. It's taking in that file name that we're saving there. And then it will download those files to our RStudio Cloud. So now it looks like everything successfully was imported. So now we were able to save those strings, and we're putting those strings directly into this file here. If we wanted, we could have just written this out. We didn't have to create objects, but it's just a little bit cleaner. So this is the equivalent I'm showing you, but I like to save them as objects. And it's helpful later, trust me. So we're now going to download, and it looks like we successfully downloaded the zip file. Now we kind of have to unzip it in order to use it, so let's do that. We can unzip the file by just using the unzip function. That unzip function, all you have to do is pass in that zip file. If it were in a subdirectory, you would need that subdirectory name and a slash. If it's not, it's in the same file as our code, which we can actually just go ahead and save to. Module 2 code. Just to give you an idea that that module 2 code is actually in the exact same folder as that zip file. Now let's unzip it. Well, setting the list equals to true with the unzip function will just show you the names of the files. If you wanted to actually unzip it, we would get rid of that list. And you can just unzip it, and now you'll notice we have a folder. And in that folder is a bunch of DTA files. And now we can kind of read in those DTAs by importing data with the read.dta function. Let's say I just type in the name of the DTA. It's not going to work because that DTA is not in this folder. It's not in this directory. So we need to add the name of the directory, which is hho2dta_pc. And then now we should have that. Maybe it didn't work because we didn't have the, yep, there you go. So the read.dta function is a part of this foreign library. So we didn't need the dplyr library. The downloader library gives you the download.file function. So as you can see, these various functions that I'm running now here are from different libraries. So you're going to need those libraries in order to get these functions to work. Now we can download data directly from a URL. And we can do that by, this is actually a website that I use for macroeconomic data. I'm trying to show you that it just simply comes from a website. That website I have gone to, and what I did was I copied this Excel button. If I were to click on it, it starts a direct download, but I don't want that. What I want to do is download it directly into RStudio. So I copy that link, and then I save that link as a URL string. So that's all I did. You need to put it in quotes. And then we can actually do the exact same process as we did before. We just use the download.file function from the downloader library. And all we have to do is put in the URL, and then we can put in a file name. I'm saving it as a string here, but I just want to show you this is the equivalent. So the first part is the URL. The second part is what you want to name it. And now you can see we have that macro data set. Now that that data has been downloaded, I'm using the download.file, and now that it's available in our working directory, we can install that using the readxl function, but this also requires another library, so we're going to install packages for readxl, and then we're going to read in that library. I've already done this, and then we are going to type in readxl function, followed by the name of that data set. And then we're going to read the second sheet. The first sheet is actually just kind of a README. So we download it, and now we have this beautiful macroeconomic data set that goes back to the 1870s for a lot of countries, shows GDP, CPI, and all these things that kind of interest me because this is my research specialty. Now that has been downloaded, we can move on to downloading data directly from GitHub. Now this is incredibly useful, and it could have saved us some time in Module 1. And essentially what you do is you find the data set that you want. So it'll be a CSV file or Excel file. And what you're going to do is you're going to, again, click on that raw data. You're going to copy that raw URL. And then you are going to save that as a URL object or string. Sorry, a string object. And then you're just going to, all you have to do is that read CSV function. And rather than that be in your directory or subdirectory, actually you can just read it directly from that raw URL. And let's save it as pf-COVID, and let's run it all at one time using command return as the shortcut if you're on a Mac. And you'll notice that we have now that df COVID data. So for all countries in the world, how many deaths, excess deaths, actually this is the data set for excess deaths. So you can really do this with a lot of files. You can even do it with the files I've uploaded to my GitHub page, right? So just think about that. And there is a lot of resources now being uploaded to GitHub that might be of interest to you. Let's move on to scraping very briefly. I can go over this more in depth if people want to know more. If you want to read an HTML table, a lot of times that can be pretty helpful for your research or whatever. We're going to need yet another external library. It's called the rvest package. And let's say you wanted to grab US governors. Say you wanted to get all of their names and maybe party affiliation. Well, we noticed that there is that data available on Wikipedia. So we can just take that URL. See that URL is saved here, so let's do that. We can take it, and all we have to do is save the URL as an object. And then all we have to do is from the rvest library that we've now successfully installed. Again, you can check it by just that. Check one more time, it works. Read HTML is a function in the rvest library. And we just are reading that link. Now we have it. Now it's a file. It's saved as the object file. You can see it kind of looks fancy. It's like this HTML document. I can talk more about what that actually means in future sessions if people are interested, but you can just extract tables by using HTML node functions and looking for table. And you can extract that from that file that we have saved, right? That's what we're putting in there, file, and we are extracting the table. Now the table's been extracted, and the final step is there'll be a number of tables. So actually you can see here that there's 8 tables. I figured out that table 2 was what we were looking for. And once we figure out what table you're looking for, you can just do HTML table function. So true. And what that will do is output. It's a bit messy, but what it does is output the governors. There's a way we can clean this up, but that I don't want to touch on today. I've already kind of went through a lot. The appendix will show you that some stata files you read won't work with the read.dta function from the foreign library. You're going to have to install this read stata library because the files, the DTAs, kind of change based on what version of stata you're using. So that is concludes module 2 and session 1. And please, I really want to encourage you to try to open up these exercises and try to tackle it on your own. Try to tackle these questions. Try to come with some understanding of the code. And if you can't, then do it. That's why we're having live sessions too. I'll be hopefully able to answer your questions then.